I don't really have much of an opening statement, so it's game week. I'm sure you got some questions and here to answer them. So I guess let's get rolling. I got a chance to watch them, not only on the game film, but also on the TV copy. Got a chance to do both. Very rare does head coach get a chance to do that. You somehow do that throughout the game preparation, but rarely do you get to see it live. We tape both, so I get a chance to see both. But I don't think it's just a one-game evaluation, right? This is a accumulation of what they did last year. This team won their first bowl game in a very, very long time last year. I was a part of a group of 5 team who did that as well. And you know what type of accomplishment that is and the type of momentum that gives you into the next year. Like I said, we got our hands full on the entire year. We're going to worry about us. We're going to worry about our team. We got to continue to get us better. Can't focus on what other people do. But I will see that Wyoming defense is one of the best defenses. I don't even know necessarily in just a group of 5. That's one of the best defenses in the country. And I think everybody saw that last night. So we're not going to let one game, whether a win or a loss of our opponent, dictate how we do things. It just continues to gain information. We're not sitting there looking to say, hey, this team's good or this team isn't good. This team's, creative, not creative. We're basically just gaining the knowledge from them. How different do they look this year from last year? What do they do similar? What are the new wrinkles? And then you continue to add to the game plan. But one thing I know, they're a dangerous football team, especially last year. And you can tell their defense, they were on the field a long time yesterday. But everybody's back from last year for the most part. Then you look offensively, they got to replace some key pieces. So, that's what we took from last night.
Coach, you expect a lot of blitzing or maybe unorthodox things from that defense?
Well, I think you can gain knowledge from yesterday. That's one thing you can do is, anytime somebody has the first game to be able to show what you're doing, you gain as much knowledge as you can, but we're always going to expect new wrinkles. We're always going to expect new things throughout a game. That's part of the game day development in terms of from the start to the finish of the game. You're always changing. You're always evolving. You always see things you haven't seen before. We know that they're going to have some things for us that maybe they didn't show in the first game or even last year. They continue to grow, continue to have an extension off of what they did last year. But I know we'll be expecting a lot of different things, that's for sure. Probably some in the game at Wyoming that we'll probably have. But our offenses are very different. Wyoming and us are a little bit different that way in terms of our offensive strategies. So, I don't think you can take a lot from that game necessarily of how they're going to play us. But there's a lot of film last year of how they played opponents that are similar to us that we can gain knowledge from. But I'm sure they've evolved over the course of a year or two.
How would you describe how much is going to be on Zach's shoulders going into Thursday? And then where do you want to see the improvement in the passing game?
Well, we just want to be better as a whole. We just an offense, defense, special teams. It's not just put on one guy. Our quarterback is going to be expected to run the offense. And that is what our expectations is of him. It's not how much do we put, how little do we put. Our offense is going to run the way our offense needs to run. And as you go through, whenever you have a quarterback or quarterbacks who haven't played before, remember, we're going to gain information together. I mean, as media and coaches, we're gaining the same information. Whether a guy has success or he fails, we're gaining that together. This isn't year 3 of somebody starting in a different system with a new head coach. This is the second year in a row we've had our starter have not played any college football yet in games. But I'm highly confident in these 2 individuals that are on our football team, and obviously with the nod going to Zach, that they can handle what we give them on game day. And they're expected to execute it at a very high level, no matter what year you are. But again, I want to make sure everybody knows that there's 53% of this team is freshmen, which is the most in the country. Right? I think there's 28 or 29 on our 2 deep. But that's exactly, if you go back, that's exactly what we said. Come year 2, we're going to be younger than we've ever been, but you're going to start to see some of this skill and this talent, the development of our football team take shape. And you'll be able to see some of that in this year. But, I don't think necessarily offense is going to be any different because of that. We're going to do what he does well.
Any updates on the roster as far as availability going into the first game?
In terms of specifically, do you have any?
It was meant generally, but also with Benny Sapp.
Yeah, well, Benny's going to play. I remember we talked about earlier in the year. You can ask me about a lot of freshmen, and I'm probably going to tell you they're going to play. You don't put those guys on your 2 deep sitting there saying, well, yeah, I don't think he's going to play. We're going to redshirt him. We don't have that option. Remember, most of our depth is filled with freshmen, and that's why we recruited them. That's why it was such a highly ranked class. We knew we had to get players that could come in here and play in the Big Ten their first year. Now, again, there's so many young players on there that we define failing as growth. There's going to be a lot of guys who make mistakes. There's going to be a lot of failing out there, but they're going to grow from it. There's going to be a lot of success out there as well. There's going to be a lot of our older guys leading the way, showing these young guys what to be able to do. But we're going to need a lot of our freshmen. I'm not even talking just the 4 games. I'm talking playing throughout the year. But again, that's how you get better. That's how you grow. You got to go through it. I mean, at some point, we've got to go through it. If we want to get to where we want to be as a program, whenever that is, whether that's this year or down the road, you got to go through it, guys. And the way that we know how to run our program and the way we were hired to run a program is to be able to do it this way. And people can call it the right way, wrong way, safe way, risky way, whatever people want to talk about. This is our way, and this is what we're doing. And I don't think we've ever stemmed off what we said from the beginning. We're going to get younger before we get more experienced. And we got a lot younger. But again, it's also that talent level is going up. Not only just with the recruiting, but the development of our players in-house, the Carter Coughlins, Kamal Martins, the Rodney Smiths. You know, I mean, they're better football players. And that's what we want to continue to see.
This is your second opener here. Does it feel more comfortable this time around?
You're never comfortable as a coach, ever. I'm not sure I don't know when that ever happens. Every coach I've ever talked to, no matter what age you are, you're never necessarily comfortable. I don't think coaches want to be comfortable. I think we live a life that's, you do everything you can to be as comfortable as you can, and you're still uncomfortable. That's what head coaches do. You know, I mean, you're paid to be paranoid all the time. I mean, you're constantly worrying about 17 to 22-year-old kids, the decisions they make, the choices they make. And then when you sit there and read your roster and you look at it and you see you're 2 deep, you're like, all right, well, we got a lot of young guys who got to grow up, and they've got to race to maturity, and that's the reason why we picked that theme we did. So, but you're never comfortable as a coach. I think you have peace. You got to find peace. That's hard to find, but you got to find it, knowing you're doing everything you can to be the best you can be and doing it the way that you always said you're going to do it, and not let anybody else take you off that path. And that's where I guess I find more peace than comfort. Does that make sense? But you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable being head coach.
How do you allow for mistakes when you know you've got a young team like this, as opposed to bringing somebody out and say you're not going to keep playing if you make mistakes, and at the same time you get this growth period apparently with these freshmen? What's the leash like for these kids?
It just depends what type of mistakes they are, right? There's cultural mistakes that nobody can make. It doesn't matter what age you are, right? The ball's the program. We said that from the start. Those are cultural mistakes, and they're catastrophic. There's different things that we know people, as they continue to get better, they haven't been in the system long enough to be able to perfect it yet. We hope that our older guys can limit those for us, but we know that freshmen are going to. I look back to when I was a player as a freshman. I wasn't even close to being the player I was as a junior and senior and upperclassman. Not even close. But again, that's the position we're in. And whether it's a long leash, short leash, everybody is treated fairly, I should say. Not everybody is treated equally. You know, Rodney Smith versus one of the true freshman backs, it's probably going to be a little bit different in how you handle those guys. But everybody's treated fairly. You know, we got to make the decisions best for our football program as we keep moving forward to get better. But we do have a young group that's got to mature and grow up. But part of the growing up process is going through games. But I love the talent we have on this football team. You know, that's what's really exciting. I love the talent we have, and that's one full class, and that's 1 year of development. I love the talent. It's just we got to continue to get them to play together, get them experience, and the only way to get that is go through it.
Entering the season, what are you looking forward to the most with this team?
I'm excited to watch them play. You know, we always talk about, you practice like a pro. You know, practice isn't necessarily fun all the time, right? I mean, you guys have been out there. It's not necessarily like everybody loves to practice every day. There's people that love practice, but every single day, I'd like to meet that person, like every day in football, that you just can't wait, even through the dog days of summer. But we're practicing like professionals. I loved how this team practiced this year. But then you got to play like a youngster. You got to play like a kid. You got to go out there and have fun and actually play. I'm not saying play like a kid in terms of mistakes and think like a child. I'm not saying that. I'm saying play like you did when the game is really fun, when you're youthful, when you're young. The reason why you joined football, that we're still coaching and playing a game. You know, as we've evolved here, I think in the last 5 to 10 years, the game and the fun part has been taken out at times for young people. And that's why we run our program the way we do. Eventually, we'll all be judged on wins and losses. Every coach always is. But I want our team to enjoy the time they have playing together. That's the big thing we've talked this year about. Enjoy playing together. Have fun together. And that's what I like about this team. That's what I like. That's what I liked at the beginning of spring ball when I saw this team has fun with each other. Then we added a bunch of young kids that love to play the game, that have fun. And that's exciting. I'm really excited to watch them play the game. Do I know there's mistakes coming? Yes. Do I know there's adversity coming? Yes. We all know that. But I'm excited to all this work they've done, just like everybody in the country, but I'm excited to watch them play. Have fun.
Have you seen the development of the running back position this summer behind Smith?
It's evolving. Remember, that was one position, as many of the other positions, if you ask. We had to develop those freshmen fast. Mohamed Ibrahim is somebody I think has had tremendous development, not the biggest, strongest guy, but he is a tremendous running back for our system. He fits us. He fits us culturally. He fits us exactly what we want in terms of a running back. He's a decisive, one-cut guy. He's a strong for not being a huge guy. Very, very strong. Great pad level. Saw huge development from him in the pass game. He's a better receiver than he was last year. And then Bryce Williams, I think you're going to see a lot of him this year as a true freshman. So behind Rodney are 2 freshmen, and that's the position we're in, like a lot of positions we have. But, you know, Bryce has developed a lot in the last probably 5 weeks. He's really separated himself, and I think he's mature enough and ready enough to play. And I think he understands his role to do that. And a lot of these are firsts. You know, we got to get through these firsts as well. And but I'm excited to watch him play.
Coach, when it comes to Row the Boat, you've had your message about what that is, and it has inspired people throughout the state. Have their stories come back to you, and how has that impacted you?
Most of the stories do come back to me, whether it's on social media, Facebook, Twitter. It's inspiring. To think back, it was one thought. It was that stemmed from adversity, that took a while to develop. That when I kind of unveiled it, everybody made fun of it, and people still do. But at the end of the day, that's always going to happen when you sit there and say, here I am as a person, and you share yourself with other people instead of closing yourself off. And when you have something like Row the Boat and you share that with everybody else, not only that, you attach it to your football program so everybody else can look at your football program, not only just a football program, but something that can inspire and motivate others who don't have anything to do with football. And to hear these stories that inspire people, and to hear what our program is, what that one thought was and that one slogan was years ago, and what it's about, to see that inspire and motivate other people to be better, to not give up, whether people have lost somebody or have been through and beat it, to be able to either celebrate and create a foundation, create a fund, live somehow in memory of that person, or celebrate that person still being here, you know, through that type of never give up attitude. It's inspiring. It is. And I told you before that as a football coach, we have a platform, and what you do with that platform is very powerful. You have a message, and whatever you decide to share that message to other people, that's your decision. We decide to say, okay, yes, wins and losses are going to be judged on me as a football coach, but me as a person and somebody who's a public figure, I want to be looked at as somebody who can bring hope and motivation and inspiration to families who are dealing with things that maybe they have nowhere else to turn. Maybe they need something else. They need a jump start. And if they can look at our program, then we're doing our job. Then I'm doing my job as a head football coach. Because I know not only just people around our state and all over the country who have emailed and tweeted and direct messaged and sent things. And I get more mail than I've ever imagined. I spend more time writing letters back half the time than I'm sitting there going, man, at some point I got to watch some film here. But if they're going to write me, I'm going to write them back. And that's a powerful message. And when you walk down our tunnel and you see all those oars, and we're rotating those, that's inspiring. You know you're making a difference. Our players, our program is making a difference. And that's what we want to be able to do. And if we can do that one person at a time, then we're doing our job. And I'm proud of it. But I know it can even be better and continue to be bigger as we keep going. But it's real. It's very real. For whatever anybody says about it, it's real, and it's there, and it's making a huge impact in our state and our community and the nation in terms of people who are struggling with different things. And we can always be that beacon and that guiding light and just be a sense of hope for them.
Coach, what are your expectations of special teams?
Well, we need to be very consistent. You know, Rob Wanger is the best special teams coordinator in the country. He's got a huge challenge ahead of him. As we talk about offense and defense in terms of when we talk about our youth, a lot of those youthful players are going to play a huge role on special teams. So we have so many young guys starting. You know, we talk about the 53% of us are freshmen, but a lot of those guys might not be necessarily starting, all of them on offense or defense. A lot of them are, but on special teams, there's a lot of them that are starting, and we consider that starters. So we have a lot more freshman starters than we even thought we would based on special teams. But the expectations, obviously, are to be very consistent, be a huge role. I think it's divided into thirds. It's you know, offense, defense, and special teams. The way we look at it is just as important as offense and defense. We've got to be able to create incredible field position and take advantage of that from other people. And again, we have some guys who haven't done it and in the punting department. And, you know, they're going to have some opportunities to show they can do it in games. And we need to be very consistent.
How have the punters done going from spring to what you've seen so
They've
far?
gotten better. You know, they think they've got to continue to get better as we continue to go through the season, you know, and the competition's been healthy. You know, I think Jacob's going to start out by punting here soon. But again, not to say we won't put Alex in there. I think that'll be kind of an evolving week-to-week type feel, just on who's punting it better. But we've got to get consistent in that category.
Slogans you mentioned race to maturity. How did that one come about? And obviously, pretty obvious why, but and how do you kind of implement that and instill that on a day-to-day basis with your team?
Well, every program you take over has its own challenges. You know, it's not the exact same at the last place I was at, but you look at similarities. Now, we have a strategic, you know, year-by-year development of how we look at our program. What do we need to emphasize? What are we going to be? Usually in the second year of when I take over a program, we get a lot younger. You know, and when we got here and we looked at our roster, we knew that we were going to have to get really young really quickly. Right, wrong, or indifferent. That was what we walked into, and that's what we needed to do. So we did it. And there's some people that might sit there and say, okay, well, we'll bridge the gap for that to happen, and we'll get half of them junior college, half of them a freshman, or we'll go mostly junior college, and the next year we'll do freshman. That's not how I develop a program. We want to build this down the road to sustain over and over and build that cultural sustainability that a lot of teams in our conference have. But to get there, you've got to go through a lot of things that might not make a lot of sense to a lot of people, you know, with playing so many freshmen and having that type of role. But that's what we have. Those are the challenges that we had when we got here, and we have to be able to take that and run with it. And that's what we're going to continue to do. But again, it's race to maturity. You know, we define it as when doing what you have to do becomes doing what you want to do. Just think of young people in general. Think of your kids. They're immature. You know, my kids are immature. You know, when they want to do something, it's usually not what they have to do. And when you tell them they have to do something, it's usually probably not what they want to do. But as you grow up, you see how that both meshes. We need these freshmen who, again, are just like your children, probably don't want to do it, but they have to. To get them to know they have to do it at a very young age, very difficult to do. So that's why we say we have to have a race to maturity, because it gives the older guys a huge responsibility to get the young guys caught up. Remember, last year we didn't have a lot of that teaching of anything because everything was new. Now at least we have this small group of 9 scholarship offensive defensive seniors that at least can teach. They've mastered it, but now they can give it to others, where last year everybody was learning it. So we'd like to have a lot more seniors. Would I like to have 29 seniors this year? Sure. We don't. But that's why we need that maturity, that young group to act like those seniors at a very young age, which sometimes you're taking that square peg and jamming it in a round hole. But that's why we had to have everything we did. We had to have maturity at the front end of it. Listen, we have to have you to do this. Here's why. Just like we talked about millennials, you got to tell them why. And then show them, you know, you should want to do this. Here's why. And then hopefully it'll pay off.
Have you noticed a difference this week in the offense and the team in general with the announcement of Alex Stead as starter?
No, I don't think the team, either way, whoever you picked, I know the team trusts both of them. I know that if you ask anybody. I mean, they're going to support any decision. I've learned that about this team. You know, this team is very aware of their surroundings. They know exactly what goes on at practice. And I think they would be very confident with either one of them. So I don't think that would ever come into play. And that's the truth. I mean, you look at Zach and look at Tanner. I mean, that was an unbelievable quarterback competition. And like I said, I have no problem putting both of them in the game. Not one problem. I don't think we'd miss a beat at all. So.
Do players ever go lobby for other players and say, hey, coach, you're not seeing this right, this kid's better than this kid? Do they ever come in and say, I think that receiver's better, you know?
Not one bit. Nope. I think we keep everything very open, very honest, and we always let them know why. And I think they see that. Now, individually, about yourself as a player.
Or somebody else?
No, I don't ever see that with other players coming in for other players. I haven't seen that. For themselves, I have. You know, hey, coach, can you explain why, you know, are you sure, like, my role is going to be this big, this soon? Or, coach, you know, is there a reason why I'm not getting this many reps? And yeah, exactly. I want our players to feel comfortable coming in there, and I feel like they do. You know, and as long as you're communicating all the time as a head coach, you know, if you keep a gap and there's no communication, that gap usually gets filled with negativity. In human beings, if there's a gap and there's a lack of communication, most of the time that gap is filled with negativity. Why? That's human species. That's human nature. My job is to eliminate that gap as much as I can in every area of our department, being completely open with our players and letting our players know they can always come in to my office and ask why. And for our part, making sure our players always know why we make the decisions we make.
Who's the third string quarterback?
Say that again?
Who's the third string quarterback?
We'll find out as we keep going through. We're going to have to be very creative, if that makes any sense. We'll have to be very creative. So, you know, I hope we don't get to that point, but if you get to that point, we'll handle that point. We have a plan. I'm not going to give you that plan yet, but we have a plan. Brother Boats game out. Go Gophers. See you guys soon.
Thank you.